The air in the tomb was thick, a heavy mixture of ancient stone, settled dust, and a sickly sweet scent, like incense that had decayed over millennia. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves, but the air just sat in my chest, a dead weight. Our footsteps echoed off the stone walls, a lonely, rhythmic sound in the narrow corridor. Behind us, just at the edge of where my flashlight beam died, a scratching sound emerged. It was faint, but distinct, like fingernails scraping against stone, or maybe dry bones clashing together. I shivered, the sound raising goosebumps on my arms. "There it is again," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Don't you hear it?" Mark, who was leading our small group, turned back, his own powerful flashlight beam cutting through the oppressive darkness. "It's just an echo, Chloe. Your imagination is running wild. Don't let it spoil what could be the archaeological discovery of the century." But Sarah, walking right behind me, squeezed my hand tight. "No," she said, her voice barely audible. "Primera, y-a-r-e-tu. It's like whispers and the smell of damp sand." It had been 3 agonizing hours since the entrance to the tomb had collapsed, sealing us inside. Our guide, Karim, had been near the entrance and vanished along with most of our supplies. All we had left were a few bottles of water, our flashlights, and a growing sense of dread. We found ourselves in a circular chamber, the walls covered in reliefs, depicting the judgment of souls. In the very center of the room sat a massive basalt sarcophagus. Its lid was slightly ajar, revealing a sliver of yawning, absolute darkness. Ben, the quietest member of our team and our resident expert on hieroglyphs, pointed a shaky finger at the wall. "These carvings," he said, his voice hushed. "They aren't prayers for the dead, they're warnings." He began to translate, his words chilling us to the bone. "He who disturbs the Pharaoh's eternal sleep, the breath of the sand shall claim his soul, and his flesh will become the desert's new dwelling." Mark scoffed, his skepticism a flimsy shield against the encroaching fear. "Come on, Ben! That's just standard issue threats to scare off ancient grave robbers. Every tomb has them." "Then what about this?" Sarah interjected, raising her digital camera. She showed us the screen. Every photo she had taken inside the chamber was corrupted. They were covered in strange, brown-gray speckles, like a sandstorm was raging inside the lens itself. I reached out and tentatively touched one of the carvings of Anubis. I snatched my hand back instantly. It's warm," I gasped. "It feels like human skin." Just then, a single drop of liquid fell onto my cheek. It was salty, like a tear. Suddenly, Ben started coughing, a dry hacking sound that echoed horribly in the stone room. "Sand," he choked out, clutching his throat. "There's sand, ... in my throat." I looked at him in horror. His skin was visibly changing, becoming dry and brittle, tiny cracks appearing around his mouth and eyes. With every ragged breath he took, a fine layer of dust seemed to drift from his body. "Drink some water," Sarah cried, her voice laced with panic as she fumbled with her backpack. Ben just shook his head slowly, a look of grim acceptance on his face. "No need," he rasped. "It's already inside me." That's when the whispers grew clearer, no longer just a feeling but distinct words slithering through the air. "Men-nefer ... kha-eb ... double quotes. Instead of fear, Mark's face lit up with manic excitement. "Ancient Egyptian. Can you believe it? They're talking to us." He strode toward the sarcophagus, his flashlight beam probing the dark opening. There might be another chamber underneath. He was cut off by a low growl that seemed to vibrate through the very stone beneath our feet. The darkness inside the sarcophagus seemed to thicken, to congeal, to move. Mark stumbled backward, his eyes wide with a dawning terror. His camera, still clutched in his hand, suddenly exploded. The screen shattered into 1,000 pieces. Sarah let out a piercing scream. "You woke it up! You woke it up!" An icy coldness swept through the chamber, and a dark, viscous liquid began to ooze from the cracks in the walls, releasing that same sweet, rotten smell, only now it was overpowering. On T-ways, the hieroglyphs began to writhe and shift. Carved scarabs scurried across the stone. Painted blades dripped with shadowy liquid, and the eyes of Anubis glared down at us with malevolent intelligence. Then, Ben rose to his feet, but it wasn't Ben anymore. His skin was a mottled gray, like weathered stone, and his eyes were milky white, completely devoid of pupils. A voice, ancient and dry, issued from his lips. I am the sand. I am the curse. I am the guardian of eternal slumber. He took a step toward us. Sarah stumbled back, screaming, but he was too fast. His hand, now like rough sandstone, touched hers. In an instant, the color drained from her skin. It dried, shriveled, and began to flake away in fine brown dust. Her scream caught in her throat as her entire body began to dissolve, turning into a cascade of sand that settled silently on the floor. Mark was frozen in place, paralyzed by sheer horror. I grabbed his arm, my own mind screaming. We fled back into the corridor, Ben's unholy chanting echoing behind us. The cloying sweetness and the suffocating darkness pursued us relentlessly. After what felt like an eternity of blind panic, we found a narrow passage leading upward. Light, hope surged through me. We scrambled up, desperate for escape. But as we emerged, Mark stopped dead, letting out a strangled gasp. No, ... It can't be, ... We were standing in another circular chamber, identical to the first one. The same sarcophagus, the same Anubis-carved walls, and on the statues, red gem eyes gleamed in our flashlight beams, mocking us. We're going in circles, Mark whispered, his voice cracking with despair. It's a loop. It's never going to let us leave. As he spoke, the first fine cracks appeared on his own skin, starting on his neck and spreading to his face. Mark. Use singa quotes, double quotes. I started, unable to finish. He touched his cheek, his fingers coming away with a dusting of fine sand. No, ... It's happening to me, too. His hands began to dry out, the lines of his fingerprints vanishing as his skin turned to grit. But then, a strange calmness settled over his features. The terror in his eyes was replaced by a serene, vacant look. The sand, it isn't the enemy, he murmured. It is eternity, ... He slid down the wall, sitting against it as if he were just tired. The dust began to gather on him, a shroud of brown and gray. In a matter of moments, Mark turned into a statue of sand, his expression of frozen horror now a permanent monument to our failure. I stood alone, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The whispers were a chorus now, a symphony of decay all around me. Dissolve, become part of us. ... Eternal. ... I looked down at my own hands. The skin was cracking, my throat was impossibly parched. But then, I saw it. A faint sliver of light from a crack high up in the ceiling. It was my only chance. Fueled by a last, primal surge of survival, I started to climb, clawing at the rough stone. My fingers bled, leaving streaks of red on the ancient walls. But I didn't stop. I pulled myself through the opening and collapsed onto cool sand, gasping in the crisp desert air. The night was vast. The sky a canopy of brilliant stars. Primera luked back. The hole I'd just climbed out of was gone. There was nothing but flat, undisturbed sand. I pushed myself up and took a shaky step forward under the moonlight. I looked at my hands. The skin was dry, cracked, alien. I tried to scream, to let out all the horror and grief, but only a hoarse, rasping sound came out, like sand scraping against stone. And then, the ancient whispers echoed in my mind, not from the tomb, but from within me. Welcome, new guardian. Your breath is the desert's breath. Your heart is a grain of sand in endless time. I gazed at the horizon, where the glittering stars looked like scattered grains of sand. I started to walk, each step heavy, my body growing drier, colder. The fear and the regret were fading, replaced by a profound, empty stillness. I had found a way out of the tomb, but I had not found my way home. I had found another existence. I had become the soul guarding the pharaoh's sleep. Because no intruder ever truly leaves this tomb. They only return to the sand. Iam te sand, I am the curse. And I will remain here, forever.